every product you touch has traveled farther than you ever will. A phone assembled in one country, powered by minerals from another, shipped across oceans, insured in one city, financed in another, and priced by markets you never see. Global trade feels chaotic. Millions of buyers and sellers, countless ships, endless movement. Yet beneath this apparent disorder lies a hidden paradox. The more global trade expanded, the more it came to rely on a small, tightly coordinated network. Not a single government, not a single corporation, but an invisible system of choke points, standards, and institutions that quietly decides what moves, what stalls, and what the world can afford. For most of human history, trade was local and slow. Empires rose by controlling land routes, ports, and caravans. Power meant owning territory. But the Industrial Revolution changed everything. Steamships, railroads, and later containerization shattered old limits. Trade volumes exploded, crossing borders at unprecedented scale. As commerce globalized, chaos followed. Different currencies, legal systems, shipping standards, and payment risks threatened to choke growth. After the devastation of 2 world wars, leaders understood that global trade could no longer survive on improvisation. It needed rules, coordination, trust. Out of this necessity emerged a new architecture. Financial institutions stabilized currencies. Trade organizations standardized rules. Shipping conventions unified logistics. Insurance markets absorbed risk. What began as a solution to instability slowly evolved into a permanent system, one that didn't govern nations directly, but governed how nations traded. The first major shift came after World War II. With Europe shattered and global supply chains broken, reconstruction demanded cooperation. New international bodies were formed to manage trade flows, currency stability, and development finance. The goal was simple: prevent economic collapse from triggering another global conflict. Then came containerization in the mid-20th century, a technological revolution with geopolitical consequences. Standardized containers transformed ports, slashed costs, and accelerated trade, but they also concentrated power. Only ports with the right infrastructure could compete. Only shipping lines with scale could survive. Trade routes narrowed into arteries. The late 20th century brought deregulation and globalization. Trade barriers fell, supply chains stretched across continents. Corporations optimized for efficiency, not resilience. At the same time, a handful of institutions quietly gained influence, setting shipping rules, resolving trade disputes, pricing risk, and clearing payments. Trade no longer moved freely, it moved through gates. The final turning point came with crises. Financial collapses, pandemics, and geopolitical conflicts exposed how fragile the system had become. When one node failed, a canal blocked, a port closed, a currency sanctioned, global trade shuttered. The network revealed itself not as optional infrastructure, but as the backbone of the world economy.
The secret of global trade is not conspiracy, it is concentration. A small number of shipping alliances move the majority of goods. A few financial messaging systems enable cross-border payments. Insurance markets cluster in specific cities. Trade law is interpreted by limited institutions. Pricing benchmarks are set in select exchanges. This creates immense leverage. Control the standards, and you control access. Control insurance, and shipments stop. Control payment rails, and trade becomes impossible. Power emerges not from ownership of goods, but from ownership of systems. These mechanisms are self-reinforcing. Trust flows to institutions that already dominate. Scale attracts efficiency. Efficiency attracts dependence. Over time, alternatives disappear. Nations may appear sovereign, but their trade depends on compliance with rules they did not design alone. Importantly, this system is not neutral. It rewards stability, predictability, and alignment. Those inside the network gain access to markets, capital, and growth. Those outside face higher costs, delays, and isolation. Global trade, once imagined as a force for equality, instead amplifies structural advantage.
Today, this hidden network is under strain. Sanctions weaponize trade infrastructure. Supply chains are renationalized in the name of security. Shipping routes are militarized. Trade is no longer just economic, it is strategic. Yet, despite political tensions, the system persists. Most global commerce still flows through the same channels. Even rivals rely on shared logistics, shared standards, and shared financial mechanisms. Attempts to build alternatives face enormous cost and friction. Crises have made one thing clear: global trade is not controlled by markets alone, nor by governments alone. It is governed by the invisible plumbing of the global economy, systems so embedded that they only become visible when they fail.
The secret network that controls global trade was not designed to rule the world. It was built to make the world work. But over time, efficiency became dependence, and dependence became power. Understanding this network changes how we see globalization. Trade is not just about goods crossing borders. It is about who controls the rules of movement, who absorbs risk, who sets the price of access. In the future, the battles that matter most may not be fought over territory, but over infrastructure, the quiet systems that decide whether the world keeps moving or comes to a halt.